We're glad you're watching KTN right here on Morning Express, and we're combining Morning Express and Jeff Koinange live with Jeff Koinange himself. Thank you for waking up early for our show.
Look, I couldn't miss this. This is the story of the century.
I know, it is.
No one wants to be not be involved or not to be involved. Yeah. I mean, and we've waited for this, Sophia. I mean, it's a sad day, it's a sad moment. It's going to be like this for the next 10 days or so.
Right.
And I've been on the phone since last night with my guys in South Africa, and you know, everybody was saying, is this the moment?
Yeah.
Is this the one? Because we've done this so many times. He's been to that hospital, came out.
Yeah.
This last time spent, you know, a couple of months.
Yes.
Went back home.
And media camped there. Everybody thought that was going to happen.
We were there for days.
Yes.
In the freezing cold. So, you know, we kept asking ourselves, is this the one? Then we heard a call that he had called his family into the room, the entire family, by his bedside.
Yeah.
And we said, you know what, I'm feeling goosebumps as I say this. We said, this could be it. This could be the moment. And we were always told, when it does happen, President of South Africa would come on national television, on SABC, and announce to the world. And that was the official announcement. You couldn't go with an announcement before because it wasn't official.
Okay.
This was the official one.
Yeah.
And, you know, finally, it came.
What are your people saying, those in South Africa right now? What's the mood like there?
Look,
what's happening?
Yeah, he had been sick for a long time. And
yes,
the great thing about this man, Sophia, I mean, look, he had prepared the world. For many years, we all kept saying, what's life going to be like when Nelson Mandela dies? Will South Africa disintegrate? Will it break out?
Yeah.
This man prepared the country, prepared the continent, prepared the world. So when the news finally came, it was like, you know what? Let the old man go and rest.
Yes.
You know, and in Soweto, in Alex, in all over Johannesburg and across the country, you know, people are going about saying, yes, the man's gone, but we move on.
You move on. And we celebrate his life.
Absolutely.
Yes,
95 good years.
And it's amazing, one of the things he's been saying, we've been playing some of the clips and the things he'd say, is that living and eating well, living a good life, taking care of himself. That was exactly what he said. Taking care of myself.
Absolutely.
Attributed to that long life. But you covered him. You've met him.
I did,
I was watching CNN when I woke up in the morning, and everybody was, journalists, everybody was like, yeah, I got to meet him. No, I didn't get to meet him, but I was in the same room with him. So it's really huge when, as a journalist, as even a president, those who got to take pictures with him.
And this man would take pictures with anybody and everybody.
Yeah.
I first met him back in 1997. You were probably in high school then.
Excuse me.
1997 in Ouagadougou in Burkina Faso.
Okay.
Back then it was known as the OAU, Organization of African Unity, before it became the AU.
Right.
So we were covering it. I was working for Reuters. And he was there as president. And other people who were supposed to show up that time, Gaddafi, you know, a whole host of presidents.
Right.
And you know, we found out he was around, and we asked his guys, look, can we get an interview? Can we get some soundbite from him? And he said, okay, we'll see. And we waited.
Yeah.
And then he finally came out, and it was a whole bunch of us. And
there are some of the pictures.
That's in his house. That's in his house.
Which year was this?
This was 98. Before 98. We left for Nigeria, we went to see him.
Okay.
This was
there with the dreadlocks.
With the dreads. So it's about 04, 05.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll come back to that story in Ouagadougou. There it is, right there in Ouagadougou.
Yes.
Guys from BBC and Deutsche Welle, a whole bunch of journalists took pictures with
Very
him.
young you were at that point.
Hey man, young, yes. And there again, in his house, you know, these are different interviews we had done. That's my cameraman, Dinky. I spoke to him this morning.
Yes.
He was actually, you know, he hasn't slept since yesterday, 7 p.m. He's been working on it. And again, this is in his study in Houghton in Johannesburg. This is late. I mean, this is 08, 2008. Yeah, before we, in between Kenya and here. Again, the dreads, 05, 06.
Yeah.
And then the greatest picture, I hope you guys have it, is my son when I took my son to meet him.
I used to love that picture. You had it on your
this
laptop.
Again in his house.
Okay, so you met him.
I did,
Yes.
What a guy. I mean, what a man. You know, you can talk about meeting all kinds of celebrities and stuff.
Oh, there's
my wife and son, he was 8 months old.
8 months?
Yeah, Bio was 8 months old.
Wow.
And we went to meet this man. He insisted on meeting him because he always wanted to meet this kid.
Okay.
He always would tease me when I first met him. He says, so when he first met me, he said, who are you?
And you have that.
And I said, my name is Jeff Koinange. He said, oh, Koinange. Oh, I know the name. Right. So and then I told him, you know, I'm from Kenya. He says, "Oh, you come from great chiefs. You're a great name from great chiefs."
I know he knows Chief Koinange.
Can you imagine?
Oh
I mean, a man like that, and I was so humbled.
I can imagine.
So after that, every time we had a press conference, he would always, you know, because there's a whole bunch of journalists.
Yeah.
And Mandela was very impressionable. He would look at you, he would look in the audience and see someone he recognizes.
Yes.
So it's, Koinange, I know you have a question.
I just love how you're doing that impersonation. Perfect.
But he would he was just always, and we had that interaction.
Yes.
So then later on he would say, "Oh, so when are you bringing me a grandchild?" You know, because you know my wife and I, when we first went to Nigeria and came, he always said, keep in touch, keep in touch. When you have that grandchild, bring him to see me. And in 2008, when this kid was 8 months old, we went to, I called the office and they said, look, he's not very well, but if it's you, we'll talk to him, we'll see. They called me back and said, come back tomorrow, 12 noon, be there.
Wow. Just like that.
Just like that. And we went, and you know, and apparently when most kids go to see Madiba, they cry, obviously, because this is a stranger and their parents want the kid to take pictures with him, and they're all crying, they're bawling, they don't know who this guy is. My guy reached out. I mean, they got along like a house on fire. Those are the words I use, because he was reaching out, touching the man, and he never said a word.
And at that point, of course, Mbiu did not know in whose hands he was.
Clueless.
Clueless. But now,
later on, because what I did is from that photo I enlarged it, and it's sitting in my house. And when Mbiu was growing up, I would tell him, you know, that's you and Madiba. And he kept saying, no, that's not me, that's a fat kid, that's not me.
Oh my gosh, fat kid.
So now he's come to the realization that this was the man. So this morning, when he woke up, because last night when the news broke, he was asleep. This morning I broke the news to him, because today's his last day of school. I brought him in, you know, and I sat him down and I said, look, your grandfather has died. Tata Madiba is gone. You should have seen the look on this kid's face. I mean, he was so traumatized. He was so moved. He was disturbed. And he ran down, he told the maid, he told the watchman. I mean, he was running around the compound, and for a 6-year-old, that's, you know, impressionable.
It is.
Because, you know, he always says, oh, Madiba this, Madiba, how did he die? Why did he have to die? This is a bad day, he says. It's a bad day.
Even for him to say
6-year-old.
that. I know.
And my wife went to drop him in school, and he was really disturbed.
He was.
Yeah, he was, you know, telling the teacher in the class.
But he had that moment, and it will never leave him.
No.
He'll always know he had that opportunity that we've seen presidents. We'll see quite a number of them that's going to be part of, you know, the send-off.
Kenya at 50, or the send-off, but even some coming here, but you never get that close. You never get that kind of relationship. I mean, I feel I'm honored.
It's special.
It's unique.
It's unique.
And from Mbiu, when he grows up and he's a young man and he's a, you know, full-grown adult, he will never forget that moment.
Yes.
That's the moment where he met the greatest man on the planet.
On the planet. And you know, we've been talking about this, and quite a number of messages coming in from world leaders. We've talked about it with Ohito. But we're yet to get a message from
our very own State House down the road. Come on, this is really, it's disturbing. It's disturbing and it's disappointing. We should have been the first. Jump in. Get those speech writers, write a speech last night, or write it 3 months ago when he was really ill. Get it ready. Because when it happens, we want to be the first to react. We don't want Obama and Cameron and what's her face in Germany to start making announcements. We want to be the first ones, Sophia. It's disappointing. They're going to come later on and say, oh, maybe the guy was busy or he was what? No, but you talk about African unity, you talk about East African cooperation, coming together as a continent. Be the first to say, hey, listen, man, this guy is dead. We appreciate him, we celebrate him, and we wish the family all the very best. That's all they want to hear.
Yes, true. But one of the things that has come out as that time, especially when everybody thought this was it, he was going to die then, when he was very unwell, we had media come to there. There was some criticism coming through for the media as well, because there was everybody there. I remember seeing one of the forms by the people providing the service, satellite and all, for the different media, that they'd said if he dies, those rates shoot up in terms of just being able to be live from South Africa.
Let's face it, and I was there. I was there when it happened. And I did see. It was a
bit insensitive. Was it a bit too much for the family?
It was a circus. But look who we are talking about. We're not talking about, you know, some Joe Schmo, some, you know, guy down the road. This is the biggest, most iconic individual on the planet. You want to be there outside his home when it's finally official. So yeah, it's a little insensitive, but that's what we do for a living.
Okay.
You know, and
that there were even stories prepared, because as soon as that happened, we saw features flying here and
stories
there.
have been prepared for years, taken from me, and it's a moment. We all want to be a part of this, but yes, sometimes it gets a little insensitive because you're predicting what's going to happen, but it hasn't happened.
Yeah.
It is what it is, and that's why
is.
we should have been ready for this as a country. I mean, you know it's going to happen, so get on the air, tell the nation, and let's move on.
Yeah, we also had him talking a lot about when he was talking about, I want now to retire, I'm now retiring from retiring, don't call me unless I call you, give me time. And I was talking to Ohito about that, and I want to put it to you because you are in South Africa, and the biggest question has been, is it that people and the world and South Africans hungered so much for his kind of leadership to continue, that even when he wanted time and to be just left alone to rest and all, people didn't want that. They still wanted more of Madiba.
Absolutely. He was the father of the nation, Sophia. The father of the nation. And he said he would only serve one term, and he did.
And he did.
And even when Thabo Mbeki came on and continued that thread, still everybody wanted to refer to Madiba every time there was a crisis, every time there was a need for that elder statesman, that person to come and reassure the nation. And they've always felt that about this man, because look, let's face it, 27 years in jail, you come out and you forgive, and you want to move on and you want to build a nation because it's more important than an individual. They all felt this was the man they referred to. He was their fallback every time.
Yes. And how is it that we have been unable to get that kind of a leader in Africa, in the world, that still everybody, he's always the reference point. Even in South Africa itself, the leaders coming in after him, we're still talking about mansions now with Zuma and all. You'd never hear that kind of a story in reference to Mandela.
This one is one of a kind, Sophia. I mean,
what was it about him?
It was just, he was a human first. He knew where his place was in history. He knew he wasn't above anyone else. What he did in the beginning, and he started off communist. Remember in the 50s, 60s, and when they jailed him, and for 27 years, year on, can you imagine the bitterness that anybody would accumulate over that time? He came out, and he had his children will tell you he was a human being. He had faults. He had problems in his marriages, first and second, right? With Winnie, and then the first marriage. He had problems with his children sometimes because he had dedicated his life to the nation, not to the family. So there was issues. And when you see this movie that premiered yesterday in the UK and last week in South Africa, Long Walk to Freedom, you do see those relationships, the strained relationships with family. So it's a sacrifice.
He was a normal human being.
Yes, but when you put yourself out there like he did, you're sacrificing yourself, at the behest of your family, because you lose out on a lot of family, relationships. Yes. But your goal is the country and the continent.
Yeah, and in fact, on one of the interviews I watched him he was asked whether he regretted the fact that he was so sometimes away from the family, but he said no. For him, at that particular point, he felt it was important to do what he did. But at that time, when he was, hospitalized for extensive period of time, we also started seeing and hearing of some cracks in the family, a few feuds here and there. Now that he's gone, what are we likely to see?
Oh, look, now that he's gone and it's official, you'll see this family come together like glue.
Okay.
Because that's what they do.
Okay.
They know it's beyond them now. It's about this individual. It's about the last of the living saints, I call them. Not anymore. But they'll come together. They'll find a way forward. And they'll iron out those little family issues.
Yes.
That will happen.
And for South Africa?
Look, this country was built a long time ago. The foundations were there. Yes, there are cracks here and there, but it's a solid place. Nothing is going to happen to that place anytime soon.
Yeah.
And this man will help it go the next step, go the next level.
Yeah, the fact that when he came into leadership, was able to extend that olive branch to those that one even called him a terrorist.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
And to have him as his deputy. Some of the things he'll never say in modern day.
And then the Nobel Peace Prize he won in 1993, I think. 93. I forgot my dates. Anyway, with F.W. de Klerk, it was about, this guy was on the other side for the longest time, but these two leaders shared that Nobel Peace Prize.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
I tell you, there's not going to be another one for another 1,000 years.
This is definitely going to be a big story around the world for the coming days until, of course, that final journey to his resting place. But in terms of Kenya, at 50 now, you know, next
Yeah.
Thursday,
Yeah.
of course, it's just been told one of those things. We've not seen a lot happening around this huge event, but that's a story for another day. But in terms of the lessons, our leadership, because there's always just stones being thrown in terms of the increase in pay.
Sure.
We've seen the county assembly members, and just ensuring that their lives are better, getting the salaries, building mansions, getting the cars, but not service to the people, not sacrificial, not humility. What will it take to get this kind of leadership?
Look, maybe it will take an event, a situation, think something like this happening. And on Thursday, Jamhuri Day, and I hear there's a whole bunch of heads of state coming here, obviously here, and then the funeral is supposed to be in 10 days' time. That was according to the program, you know, done years ago. It will be in about 10 days' time to give enough people to get there. But and the planning, of course, and the body lying in state. But on Thursday, Jamhuri Day, the president should use part of the speech to say, you know what, this man, this icon, he set the road for us. He set the pace for us. He opened the door for us and the way. Let's emulate Nelson Mandela. Let's do what Nelson Mandela would want us to do. And tell these heads of state and tell Kenya, now that we've reached 50 years old, it's time now to move on. Nelson Mandela and his likes made it possible. Let's not let them down.
Yeah, and even as he says that, he'd better start with him as the head of state.
Correct. Starting at home.
Starting at home.
Right here, yeah.
Take us through that again. What happens now? You've mentioned it very first, but take us through his gone.
Right.
Happened last night.
Correct. The president officially announced it. Yeah.
Happens?
There's going to be the body will lie in state, and people can go and see. It'll probably be in Pretoria, in the capital.
Okay.
It'll lie in state, and obviously, millions of South Africans will go around just to view and all that.
Yeah.
Heads of state starting to arrive, and guests, invited guests. The service will be a state service, complete state funeral, which will probably be in the capital.
Yeah.
And everyone and their grandmother will want to be there.
I know, you want to be part of this.
You want to be there on that day. So we're talking, if he died the 5th, so about 10 days by the middle of the month is when that will be. And then the burial itself will have to take place in his home village of, and I'll try and say this right, Onu. Q-U-N-U. Onu, yeah. So that's his home village, where his ancestors are also buried, and that's where he said he wants to be buried. He wants to be buried in the Eastern Cape, So that's where it's going to happen, and that will be very private because not many people get. Yeah, it will be very private. It will be just be very few invited guests to go and finally, toss the soil into the ground and send this man off on his way.
And remember when President Obama was there just recently, many thought he'd want to go see him in hospital, but it was a good move that he did not.
Absolutely, well, it was a very good move.
Yeah.
In fact, he almost cancelled that trip.
Okay.
Remember, he was coming in from Senegal. Remember, Senegal, South Africa, and then Tanzania. Yeah, not Kenya, of course. But that's another story.
Us.
But he almost cancelled that trip because Mandela was so ill in hospital, and his people were saying, obviously Mandela was the story. It had completely overshadowed the Obama's visit to SA. But in the end, he did arrive, and he spent his couple of days and he did what he did and then left. But a lot of people were saying, should he go visit him? But it was a publicity thing. If anything, it would have been publicity, because Mandela would not have been able to A, recognize him, and B, what would they have discussed?
Yeah, Jeff Koinange live in studio talking us through some of the life and times of Nelson Mandela. I want to take a look at some of those pictures of Nelson Mandela, and we'll continue that discussion in a short while. Take a look.